Good morning, good morning. Today, October 1st, 2014, marks 1 year since the government shut down. On that day, the Republicans chose to do great damage to the economy. For 16 days, they kept the government shut down. Even before October 1st, I had said to the Speaker, we will give you the votes to keep government open, even though we don't like your 988 figure. You recall that was a drop of $80 billion from the $10.58 trillion that we had $1,058 billion that we had all agreed to. And then the House said not $1 over 988, or else they would shut down government. The Senate agreed, the President agreed, House Democrats agreed. The only people who didn't agree with the House Republican number were the House Republican members, and they shut down government with glee. For 16 days, they kept government shut down, damaging to the tune of $25 billion our economy, hurting a rate of growth of our GDP. And when they finally came around after public pressure was too much, overwhelmingly, the Republicans voted to keep government shut down, and the Democratic votes for their number, which we didn't like, but we accepted, to open up government. It's just stunning, the frivolity with which the Republicans treat the economy. That was 5 years from the time when they had, on September 29th, voted against a solution to the financial meltdown. President Bush was president. That's 6 years from now. Go back 6 years. And 6 years ago was when we were leading up to the election of President Barack Obama. When he took office in that year, the unemployment rate was over 9%. It's now 6.1. The deficit was $1.4 trillion in that year. It's now around $504 billion, a 60% drop in the deficit. The market then was around 7,000. It's now around 17,000. We've had 54 straight months of private sector job growth to the tune of 10 million jobs. Much more could have been done if the Republicans had supported some of the job initiatives that the president had put forth. We're not in a good place yet for most working families because they are scarred by what the president inherited, the greatest financial meltdown and economic crisis for us since the Great Depression. But the president has much to be proud of in terms of his turning around the economy, but more needs to be done. And that's why it's hard to understand how the Republicans could leave for a break, the earliest departure for a break before an election. Instead, we should be here for our middle-class jumpstart, issues that are not particularly partisan, to build the infrastructure of America with Build America bonds, paid for by closing tax breaks for companies that send their jobs overseas, investing in education to keep America number one, supporting initiatives that enable families and students to renegotiate their loans at a lower price, at a lower interest rate, so that they can be entrepreneurial and they can afford college in the first place and be entrepreneurial, not straddled and chained by that oppressive debt. And of course, in our middle-class jumpstart, the jewel in the crown, when women succeed, America succeeds. Who can argue, that the Republicans do, that we shouldn't have equal pay for equal work for women? Raise the minimum wage. Over 60% of the people making it, nearly two-thirds making the minimum wage, are women. Allowing women to have a balance between, and families, men too, between work and home with paid sick leave. And of course, to me, the missing link in the evolution of the women in the workplace and in our economy, affordable quality child care, children learning, parents earning. Instead of being rejected, the president's proposal for universal pre-K rejected by the Republicans, we even have to go younger than that. So we have important work to do to meet the needs of the American people. The best thing we can do for our economy is to empower women, unleash the power of women in our economy. So that's part of the debate that we'll be having as we go forward. I'm looking forward to the president's speech on Thursday, that's tomorrow, on that subject. Some of you asked me about ISIS and a vote in Congress on that subject. We are the first branch of government, Article 1, the legislative branch. Congress has a role in defining and how our country degrades and defeats ISIS, one of the challenges that we face to our national security. There's a conversation among members informally about what form and authorization should take that would secure our national security interest, as well as could pass in both houses of Congress. These conversations should be moved from the informal to the official. When this Congress comes back in this session in November, it is important that we are ready to debate and vote on such an authorization. Between then and now, we should be preparing. As you have seen in the news on a day-to-day basis in recent days, the peaceful demonstrations in Hong Kong. Some of you who've been around for a while know that the issue of pro-democracy and freedom and human rights in China and Tibet have been an important issue to me since even before Tiananmen Square. These demonstrations are peaceful, they are young, and hopefully they will produce a result. At the time of the great UK yielding back Hong Kong to China, a basic law was established. And Article 26 of the Basic Law, or the Constitution, states permanent residents of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region shall have the right to vote and the right to stand for election in accordance with the law. What China is doing now is counter to that, because they're saying the people they put forward are the people who have a right to stand for office. So we're all watching very closely to see what is happening. The chief executive has said we need to amend the methods of establishing a chief executive, which is, of course, counter to the agreement that took place in the 1990s. And so, again, I think that people throughout the world should speak up on what is happening in Hong Kong. It's amazing to see how young, some of them in secondary school, some high school students, they have their demonstration. They don't run from tear gas. They clean up behind themselves, and they show up the next day because they want to have what was promised to Hong Kong. On the subject of Ebola, I just want to make a comment there, because global health has been an issue of concern to the Congress for a long time, and we have committed substantial resources to it, whether it's HIV, AIDS, whatever it happens to be, malaria, tuberculosis, and the rest. On the subject of Ebola, I salute the president for what he announced recently. It was well received by one president that I have been speaking to on more than one occasion, the president of Liberia, saying it gives them hope and hospital beds. And my conversations with the president of the World Bank, who see this as having an impact on not only the people, which is first and foremost the issue, but the economy of these countries. Resources will make a difference. If people are quarantined in a clean setting and they have care, they can recover. And when they recover, it gives other people hope to come in to seek care. So it's a sad challenge, but really in our interest from a humanitarian standpoint, but also for what it means to our own country. With that, I'd be pleased to take any questions you have. Sir.
Leader, do you share Mr. Cummings' belief that the director of the Secret Service should resign because he's lost confidence in her ability to run the agency?
I have great confidence in Chairman Cummings, Mr. Cummings. I did not see the entirety of the hearing yesterday because I was at some events for the Prime Minister of India, which was wonderful. They were wonderful. But here's what I would say. In terms of the Secret Service and the protection of the President of the United States, that has to be, there has to be an independent investigation as to what is going on at the Secret Service. The protection of the President has to be precise, it has to be flawless, and there has to be accountability when that is not the case. It is inexcusable that someone would jump over the fence and into the White House, inexcusable that someone would be on the elevator with the President of the United States, with or without a weapon. And so I think an independent investigation is what is needed, not just to hold people accountable, but to see how we should go forward in a way that, again, has precision, accountability, and is flawless, because the protection of the President is really important to our reputation, the reputation of the Secret Service. And Mr. Cummings keeps making that point, and I agree with him. It's about reputation. This is the expectation. The President will be protected. The President and his family will be protected. So that's... Yes.
The senior Democrat on the Government Reform Committee says he's not comfortable with Julia Pearson continuing as the head of the Secret Service. Do you agree with him?
Well, as I say, I have confidence in what he has to say. I do think that the challenge may be more than one person. I'd like to see an investigation of the culture and the procedure and the accountability in the Secret Service, because while I have a confidence in Mr. Cummings, complete confidence, I do think that the challenge may go beyond her, because some problems existed before she was there. Well, I think we should have an investigation. We'll learn more about what they have been learning and who has come forth. But I think that I understand that she's the top person. The buck stops here, and there are those who are calling for her to step aside, whether she does or not. I think we need an independent investigation. Her leaving doesn't end the need for us to know a lot more about what is happening. But again, I would accept the recommendation of my ranking member on the committee.
To that end, on the same point here on the Secret Service, when we had some of the scandals a couple of years ago, the carousing in Cartagena and so on, prior to her coming in as the director, you called the culture and some of the things going on there disgusting, was the word you used.
It was very disgusting.
Do you think, though, that the culture change, maybe they fixed one type of problem? That was the idea, to bring her in versus, some of these other issues that deal more directly with the security portion?
I have no idea. That's why I said we have to have it. In other words, what was happening there was inexcusable, and a weakening of the security that we need to protect the President. So it's not unrelated to protecting the President. So if Mr. Cummings thinks that she should go, I subscribe to his recommendation. However, I don't think, and I don't say that he is saying this, that that's all that should be done. There has to be an independent investigation. Has to be accountability. President of the United States and his family. The reputation of the Secret Service as ironclad in terms of protecting our president, any president, presidents to come, has to be one that the American people have that confidence, that anyone who would serve or run would have that confidence. So whether it's some of the disgusting behavior of some of the members, which is, in my view, inexcusable, but that's minor compared to letting a person on the bus, on the elevator with the president with a gun or without a gun, or letting somebody jump the fence and have several lines of defense not work. But again, this is important, and it has to be dealt with. But what we also have to deal with, because the protection of the president, his security, is of the utmost importance to us. Again, this president, any president. But we also have to be mindful of what's happening in America's homes. And right now, people have insecurity about their stability, their financial stability, about their job, about their pension, about the education of their children, about their ability to have a home. Because for all of the all of the progress that was made in reducing the deficit and lowering unemployment, and the success of the growth of the stock market by almost 10,000 points, and the job growth in the private sector, still too many people are left out of the loop. And their financial security, their financial stability is something that we have a responsibility to be dealing with too. And we can do more than one thing at a time. Yes.
What type of independent investigation would you support? Is this something that would be done here by congressional committees, or do you want...
Well, I think that congressional committees have believe me, I'm a big supporter of the prerogatives of Congress to investigate. But I do think that there could be an investigation of people who have experience directly in protecting presidents and the first family and all that they protect, visiting dignitaries and the rest, and that expertise might be useful in a no-nonsense, this is what this is, and what we recommend is what we want to see happen. This isn't a conversation. This isn't a conversation. This is more than a recommendation. It is a requirement that if people decide that they're going to pull back the curtain on the Secret Service, that there's going to be acceptance of some of the maybe very difficult suggestions that they may have to make. It's interesting because, as you know, it started off as a collector of customs, and California was one of the big places. The person who headed the Coast Guard, collected customs, the Secret Service, part of the Treasury Department. Now it's evolved, and now it's part of the Homeland Security when we established that committee. And we have to do much better than this, much better than this. And again, to take it to a level of professionalism where there's no question of politics or anything else, just what do we need to do to protect the president? What does it mean when you decide to join the Secret Service? What is the level of professionalism, accountability? When I say professional, I mean you take responsibility. You take responsibility. But again, we have to take responsibility for meeting the needs of the American people and their financial security. And that is what I think the president should be very proud of, what has been accomplished and his administration, much of it because of what we did in the 2 years when we had the Democratic majority with the Recovery Initiative and the rest. And did I say about 15 million people now have quality, affordable health care, which is helping to reduce the cost of health care cost in our country, helping to reduce the deficit.
Can you explain what you meant? A minute ago you just said you subscribe to Cummings' recommendation that she should leave. Does that mean you think she should leave?
I say I agree with his analysis, yes. But I'm saying that if that's what he is suggesting, I support his suggestion. But if you follow up and say, tell me why you think she should leave, I don't have the knowledge that he has. So I am subscribing to his superior judgment and knowledge on the subject. But I'm also further saying that this is more than one person, because there were problems before she went there. There were problems, as Chad was mentioning, before she went there, and we want to see what challenges the Secret Service still faces to keep the level of professionalism, that is the conduct of their duties in a professional way, and professionalism in being accountable for the protection of the president. Let me add something.
Madam Leader,
here. Yes.
on
On ISIS, you're privy, obviously, to a lot of intelligence briefings. President Obama said the United States intelligence community underestimated their threat. Do you share that opinion?
Well, what the president said in August, which is what I think he reiterated, I think there's no doubt that their advance, ISIS advance, their movement over the last several months has been more rapid than intelligent estimates. And I think the expectation of policy makers both inside, and that is more rapid than the expectations of policymakers both inside and outside of Iraq, yeah.
A lot of briefings up here, though, over the course of a year,
yes,
especially when Fallujah fell, that said ISIS was a real threat.
It's a threat.
Is it fair
and that's when actions were taken after Fallujah, the dam, the mountain, then actions were taken to
so for the president
them.
To put that much blame on the intelligence community, though?
It's not a question of blame. It's a question of fact. The fact is that what Mr. Clapper said in his statement is he said that his analysis had reported the group's emergence and its prowess and capability, as well as the deficiencies of the Iraqi military. What we didn't do was predict the will to fight. That's always the problem. And that is what he said. So he said, in this case, we underestimated ISIL, the Islamic State, and overestimated the fighting capability of the Iraqi army. I didn't see the collapse of the Iraqi security force in the north coming. I didn't see that. It boils down to predicting the will to fight, which is imponderable. And that's what the chairman of the National Intelligence said very recently in relationship to what the president had been informed and Congress had been informed earlier. What I do want to say about the president, though, is that while all of this was happening, and for a long time now, the president has been working diplomatically and politically to make sure there was a new government in Iraq, because it's no use doing much in terms of military or diplomacy if you don't have a government that's going to be inclusive. So while all of this is going on, the president and the vice president were working very hard to see a transition to a government that would be inclusive, not just there to represent Shia priorities, but Shia, Sunni, Kurd, Christian, and the rest, an inclusive government. The president has been putting together diplomatically a coalition of our NATO allies as well as allies in the region to degrade and destroy ISIS. The president has rallied humanitarian assistance in a very important way when ISIS was threatening genocide to thousands of people, isolating them on a mountain. The president came in and defanged and defused that humanitarian crisis. So a great deal has been going on. Again, when Mr. Clapper says we underestimated ISIL and overestimated the fighting capacity of the Iraqi army, part of the fighting capacity of the Iraqi army, the will to fight, sprang from also not having a government in Baghdad that really gave them any comfort that they were an important part of Iraq. That has changed, and that is one way to degrade and destroy ISIS.
Can I follow up on?
As you say, a lot is going on, and it'll be, I think, when you guys come back from the elections, it'll be more than 3 months since President Obama started this offensive. Why shouldn't you guys come back sooner, debate ISIS, debate an authorization?
I'm totally with you. And I disagree with the speaker who says, well, we have to wait for the president to give us an authorization so that we can vote on it. No, you don't. If you want to define an authorization, which defines the to use the word again, authority that you're giving the president, you don't wait for the president to write it. Congress writes it because we are asserting our willingness to vote for a plan of action. I do believe, as the speaker I think has said, for what the president is doing now, he has the authority to do it. We have voted overwhelmingly, over 300 votes in the Congress, on the McGovern resolution that says, should there come a time that president goes farther, then it will require an authorization of Congress. I think we should have stayed to do it. I think we should be getting ready to do it. People, as I say, are informally right. We have a range of well, two examples, Senator Nelson and Congressman Frank Wolf, but many other people within our own caucus are writing down possibilities of what an authorization would look like. I think it has to spring from Congress. Congress has to vote on it, and it defines how we would limit the power of the president or not, but it's our decision. It's not the president's decision. So I'm with you. I think we should never have left. I think we stayed here to debate and discuss what we would do to degrade and destroy ISIS. I think we should be here to do a jump start for the middle class, to have job creation that gives confidence in our economy to the American people, to degrade ISIS, to give confidence in our national security. I think there's plenty of work that we could have been doing here now, and that's why I'm here and have been here each week since we have been out. I think that we have just time for one more question. Yeah.
In 2007, there was an article in the El Paso Times, and then Director of National Intelligence Mike McConnell said that, quote, a significant number of Iraqis had already come across that year, had already come across the southwest border of the United States. If President Obama does what he has promised to do and takes executive action to legalize some illegal aliens in the United States.
Are you referring to undocumented people who are in the United States?
Illegal aliens, yes, ma'am.
Undocumented people, okay.
What should this legislation include Iraqis as well?
Well, we have many borders. We have the Canadian border, we have the southern border, we have people coming by land and sea, and we certainly have to protect the American people. That's our first responsibility, to protect and defend. I don't think it has anything to do with what the president is going to do next on immigration. I think it has to do with what we are doing for our national security. Thank you all very much. Oh, yes, ma'am, okay.
Sneak in a political question since we're getting so close to the election. Republicans are using a strategy they've used before in House races, which is featuring you in a lot of ads in competitive races, trying to link vulnerable members to you.
President Obama.
You and the president, actually. Often it's both of you. So I'm just wondering what you think of this, whether or not you'll be a factor.
They have no ideas. They have no ideas. They have nothing to offer the American people in terms of job creation, financial stability, lowering the cost of education, raising the minimum wage, stopping their tax breaks for their friends to send jobs overseas instead of the United States. So they use their politics of personal destruction, which is their stock and trade. It comes from their poverty, their lack of ideas. And you know what? People aren't responding to them. We have out-mobilized them, we've out-recruited them, we've out-raised them to a shameful extent, and they're desperate. But there's a lot more in this election than what somebody, and most people say to me, why are they asking me about her? I thought it was between the two of you. What do you have to offer? What do you have to offer? But you know, we're in the arena, and that's the way it is. And I'm so respectful of the president and what he has had to do. I'm more offended by any attacks they might make on the president of the United States, who has done so much. Oh my goodness, they help me raise money every single day. As Franklin Roosevelt said, I take pride in my enemies, or how did he say it? In such a way. But if they had anything to offer, they would be offering that. They have nothing to offer. They're not here. They shut down government. 6 years ago, they would have allowed our country to go down, our financial institutions to go down the drain. This president inherited that very, very bad economic situation, turned the country around. That's what I think we have to be talking about in this election. And I'm not here to talk about them. We surround ourselves with people who share our values and believe in what we believe in, and we have great candidates. We have great enthusiasm at the great grassroots level. And I remind you that for all that they had to say, last election, we got over nearly 1.5 million more votes than they did nationally. Didn't happen to be in the right districts, but nationally, the public voted for the Democrats for the House of Representatives by over 1 million votes.
Same pickups that you predicted earlier?
I think we'll do okay. I think we'll do okay. I'm going to go over to the DCCC right now to talk about some of that. But we feel very confident. And you know what? Their days are numbered. Their days are numbered. I know that in 2 years there will be a Democratic Congress and a Democratic president. I'd like it to be in 2 months. I'd like it to be in 2 months. So what we do here.
You're conceding
No,
this
I'm
fall.
not. So I'm saying it. So in this fall, it's important for us to come as close to that as possible. But
For
the
2
last
more years?
president, I just read his article, he said we could lose 39 seats. Let that be their prediction. Let that be their prediction.
Stay on for 2 more years if in fact you believe there's going to be a Democratic Congress and a Democratic president?
I am staying on for 2 more years. I'm running for re-election.
Sorry, beyond that.
Oh, well.
Yeah, and to be clear, when you say you're staying on for,
My husband first.
to be clear, when you say you're staying on for 2 years, meaning you're staying on in the House, but also as leader, correct?
Thank you.
Jobs,
Well, I thought the Giants were important.
affordability. When women succeed, America succeeds. That's what's important.
How about the Giants?
How about the Giants? And how about the Orioles?
Talk about having.
Who you gonna root for?
My father brought the Orioles to Baltimore when he was here in Baltimore, so I'm happy to see them do so well. My next door neighbor owns the Nationals, so there's a lot of good teams that could independent and then win that series. So stay tuned.
Oh, you're on the every year
Now
plan.
see our new stadium, the 49ers stadium. We got a lot going in sports. And by the way, say this one more thing, because that's the only TV I watch is sports. I'm not interested in anybody's opinion. In fact, I don't even listen to the commentator's opinion. I just want to watch the score and the team and watch sports that way. That's really the only TV I watch. But these elections are, just to get to your point again, are like the Olympics. They're a game of inches or seconds. You come a couple seconds behind or an inch behind, you might be 7th. You don't even get a medal. So it's just a question of where we come down, on what side, how many seats come down. As I tell everybody, 5 weeks from today, this Wednesday, we can have no regrets that we've done everything possible to advance the cause, because elections are about 2 things. They're about who wins, and they're also about how the debate is conducted so that the public holds people accountable for job creation and college affordability and equal pay for equal work. So the debate is very important too for our country, and that is what is exciting about it. But since we're talking sports, think Olympics. One side or the other, a matter of seconds or inches. So we're fighting very hard, and we will have no regrets because we'll do everything possible to advance the cause as well as the candidates. Thank you all very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.